This is the blood supply of the brain. Coming up from the foramen magnum is the vertebral artery. First giving off the branch called the superior and posterior inferior cerebellar artery. This is the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. And then the vertebral artery unites with the vertebral artery of the other side, and then forms the basilar artery. So this is the basilar artery. The first branch, this is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. This was posterior inferior cerebellar. Now this is anterior inferior cerebellar. And then we have the artery of the labyrinth that goes into the internal acoustic meatus with the facial and the vestibulocochlear nerves. And then we have the superior cerebellar artery. These two were inferior cerebellar. This one is superior cerebellar artery. And then the basilar artery terminates with middle cerebral artery. This small artery is the posterior communicating artery. And this coming up from the cavernous sinus is the internal carotid artery. And now the venous sinuses of the brain. Now let's take this back. First and the most prominent, this is the superior sagittal sinus. Now below this we have the inferior sagittal sinus, that's now shown. Inferior sagittal sinus. So this is the superior sagittal sinus. This goes back to the confluence of the sinuses. Here is the confluence of the sinuses. It's more visible this way. This is the confluence of the sinuses. So this is the superior sagittal sinus. This is the transverse sinus. This is the right transverse sinus. The right transverse sinus. And then becomes the sigmoid sinus. This is the sigmoid sinus. This is the superior petrosal sinus. And then the inferior part of the petrosal sinus. This is the superior petrosal. The inferior part descends down here and then unites with the sigmoid sinus to form the internal jugular vein. And then below here, we said this is the confluence of the sinuses. Below it, we have the occipital sinus. You see, this is the occipital sinus.